Welcome to the Spy Collection. My name is Anastasios, and following our last week's video where we demonstrated how Russia's FSB used a commercially available GPS tracking device for missions inside Ukraine, in this episode we'll see another TTL gadget, but this time from the United States. This is the Phoenix Junior Transmitter, manufactured by Sijao Engineering from Florida in the United States, and it's the start of our story. Firstly, as we read in its instructions, the Phoenix Junior Firefly transmitter is an infrared IR beacon for marking and positive identification of vehicles, personnel, and obstructions. The IR version cannot be seen with the naked eye. However, it can be seen through several layers of clothing with night vision equipment. The beacon is designed for use in conjunction with night vision equipment. We aren't going to read the rest of it. If you'd like to read it, please pause the video. Here is the first page, and here is the second one. Those were generally referred to as Firefly beacons, and they operate in the IR spectrum. So if we plug a 9-volt battery, you cannot see them with the naked eye. But if we use NVGs, then you can see them, and actually from quite far away. The device itself isn't that exciting, but let's get a glimpse into how it was used by, primarily, officers from the CIA's SAC's ground branch, as well as JSOC operators. Here's a quote from the 2014 book, America's Dirty Wars, Irregular Warfare from 1976 to the War on Terror. Drones, beacons, operatives, and reprisals. In 2012 alone, CIA drone strikes killed hundreds of suspected Islamic militants in the insurgent hubs of North and South Waziristan in northern Pakistan, along the Afghan border. Given the drones' chillingly lethal state-of-art technology, there was little that the insurgents could do to avoid their fate. Yet, one significant countermeasure was the dogged search for informers who assisted the CIA by often placing GPS beacons in insurgent compounds to create a 21st century bullseye to help ensure that the drone strikes hit their target. The militants' efforts often involved accusing local tribesmen of collaboration and then forcing them to confess into a video camera before their summary execution by hanging or firing squad. The taped confessions were then distributed locally and on the internet in order to terrify other potential collaborators. In the Afghan-Pakistan border regions, the insurgents had become obsessed with patrai, a local word for a tiny metallic device that they believed the CIA used to locate them. In 2009, an Al-Qaeda deputy commander published an article with photographs of these devices and warned of their lethality. He was subsequently killed in a drone strike. In 2012, the Taliban distributed a video showing another such device, a tiny electronic circuit board covered in plastic that, when connected to a 9-volt battery, pulsed with an infrared light that acted as a homing device. In this instance, it seemed, the 9-volt batteries revealed a decidedly low-tech element in what was a high-tech dirty war of American drone strikes against suspected terrorists. Here is a sample footage from those death squads that were hunting down and executing alleged CIA informants, or agents as it's officially known, just like the book mentioned. And in case you wonder how this practically worked, it was simpler than you might think. As we read in this 2009 MSNBC article, in April, 19-year-old Habibur Rahman made a videotaped confession of planting such devices just before he was executed by the Taliban as an American spy. I was given $122 to drop chips wrapped in cigarette paper at Al-Qaeda and Taliban houses, he said. If I was successful, I was told, I would be given thousands of dollars. But Rahman says he didn't just tag jihadists with the devices. The money was good, so I started throwing the chips all over. I knew people were dying because of what I was doing, but I needed the money, he added. Which raises the possibility that the unmanned aircraft, America's key weapon in its covert war on Pakistan's jihadists and insurgents, may have been led to the wrong targets. Here is a snippet from another such video confession from the Taliban. And in terms of that Al-Qaeda manual, reference from some leader of the group, here are some more details from the Wired magazine. Actually, even its manufacturer has a copy of this Wired story in their website as an endorsement of their product. It says, the American and Pakistani intelligence services credit US unmanned aircraft with decimating the ranks of terrorist and insurgent operatives in Pakistan. Very frankly, it's the only game in town in terms of confronting and trying to disrupt the Al-Qaeda leadership, CIA Director Leon Panetta said in May. The unmanned aircraft have supposedly carried out 28 attacks on suspected militants. Just since the start of the year, hundreds have been killed, including as many as 45 more people in a series of strikes today. But how the killer drones find their targets has been a matter of some dispute. Local Taliban commander Mullah Nazir, himself an occasional target, says they are guided by SIM cards installed in militant cell phones. Area tribesman talks of homing devices planted by informants that are capable of signaling American aircraft. In The Ruling Concerning Muslim Spies, an internet-distributed book written by self-styled theologian and emerging Al-Qaeda leader Abu Yahya al-Libi, warns readers of American infrared devices which he claims direct the attacks on Al-Qaeda and its allies. The publication that Wired was referring to, The Ruling Concerning Muslim Spies, was an Al-Qaeda electronic manual that Abu Yahya al-Libi published on June 29, 2009 through the Al-Fajr Media Center. Actually, we managed to find this 149 pages long AQ manual, and at its last section is showing those devices, saying that Fifth issue. I mentioned before that the mission of today's spies is not limited to merely conveying information and delivering abstract news to the enemy, as is the case with most spies mentioned by experts in their books. Rather, in this age, they have become real and active participants in operations, which removes them from the abstract description of espionage and includes them in the group of actual soldiers. In this context, here are pictures of some of the items that spies use and endure the trouble and risks to deliver them to their targets that their infidel guardians order them. These result in the firing of murderous and destructive missiles whose wrath is inflicted on the Mujahedin and the weak. Then we have the images with the captions. Chip with 9-volt battery. Then here it says, image of the chip emitting infrared rays only visible through night vision equipment, and chip mounted on the battery. Tubes containing chemicals. This last one appears to be a visible light mini chem light sandwiched between two IR mini chem lights, but without any additional photos or details, it's hard to be certain about it. Thus we'll leave this out of the scope for this video. From that photo we can also deduce that AQ already had some limited access to night vision equipment. And in case you want to know more about the destiny of the author of that Al-Qaeda manual, he was the target of a US drone strike on June 4, 2012 in Mirali, a town in North Waziristan district in Pakistan.
Removing leaders like al-Libi from the very top of Al-Qaeda is part of an ongoing effort to disrupt and dismantle and ultimately defeat Al-Qaeda. And that is an important piece of business.
As you can see, it's a very simple and truly compact device. It has 3 bright IR LEDs, and the entire unit is protected from the elements, since it's in this thick plastic cover filled with epoxy resin, leaving only the 9-volt battery connector exposed. And the same manufacturer also produced a few different variants, like this. Later, the Taliban found a way to partially defeat it though. In those days, several camcorders had a filter to allow them to film in the night, using an IR light embedded in the camcorder and a sensor without an IR filter. Here's for example a commercial from Sony from the early 2000s, demonstrating this. And as we read in this 2012 article from the New York Times, Taliban used this to inspect any vehicles against the hidden Phoenix transmitters. As we read, in north and south Waziristan, the tribal districts where 95% of about 265 strikes ordered by the Obama administration have occurred, the drones have sown fear and paranoia among Taliban fighters who, facing a technologically superior enemy, have adopted some unusual countermeasures. During an interview last month in Sawal, a thickly forested district of plunging valleys that became a haven for Al-Qaeda after 2001, a senior Taliban commander, Walia Rehman, ordered his fighters to scan a newly arrived car with a camcorder. Mr. Rehman explained that the camera could somehow detect otherwise invisible signals from the patrai, local slang for small electronic tracking devices that, many tribesmen believe, guide American missiles to their target. These are new weapons, said Mr. Rehman, who has a $5 million United States government bounty on his head, pointing to the Sony camera. It has saved a lot of lives. Where that goes through is unclear, although a former CIA official confirmed that the agency does use tracking devices to identify targets. Note that Walia Rahman was killed in a drone strike inside Pakistan, near the border with Afghanistan, while in his house located in Krasma area of Miransha, Pakistan, on May 29, 2013. In summary, those Phoenix transmitters were used in Afghanistan and other countries to mark targets so they can be used as identifiers in drone strikes. That was a practical technique then because the adversary of the United States, especially in those early days, had no night vision capability, making this completely invisible to them. In spy lingo, this is a TTL, or Tag, Track and Locate device. And apart from those professionally manufactured ones, CIA, GB guys and JSOC operators also improvise them in other ways too. Here is, for instance, a quite rare such variant of those TTL devices. Here is under normal view. And here is under night vision. Those operatives would typically task their agents to place those on the tracks of their targets, their safe houses and so on, and then use them to target them with missile strikes, or in other cases, to just clandestinely follow them around to discover more of their facilities, as well as to develop their pattern of life. Note, however, that this wasn't the reason why the Firefly was originally designed for. As we can read in the US Army Field Manual 350 from August 2005, focusing on personnel recovery, signaling devices are used by the IMDC personnel to pinpoint their locations to units in their immediate vicinity. When only a general location of the IMDC is known, a signaling device can reduce the amount of time recovery units spend searching for the IMDC's exact location. Examples of signaling devices are infrared beacons, Firefly, signal strobes, VS-17 panels, flares, smoke grenades, chem lights, and signal mirrors. Figure Delta 3 shows a signal strobe on the left and an infrared beacon on a 9-volt battery on the right. Back to the use of this as a TTL device though. A year after the previously mentioned Wired article in 2010, there was another one titled Afghan Deaths Highlight Lack of Tracking Technology, where we read, Blue Force Tracker isn't the only geolocation tool at the military's disposal. A post-Desert Storm push to make sure aviators stop accidentally blowing up their soldier comrades below has resulted in all kinds of gear. LEDs powered by the 9-volt batteries anyone can buy off the shelf can power up an infrared beacon visible to pilots' night vision. Indeed, Al-Qaeda suspects that's how CIA drones are tracking them. Don't like that? Carry around a transponder the size of a bar of soap that acts as a digital dog tag when talking a plane's radio system. So those little devices had many uses from IFF, PR, as well as TTL by CIA's ground branch and JSOC operators. Note that covering those trackers with some cloth was a common concealment technique. But as you can see, it's still visible under NVGs, and even more so from the very sensitive high-res sensors that UAVs had at the time. In the 2021 Air Power in the Age of Primacy, Air Warfare Since the Cold War, it highlights the psychological warfare impact that a tiny device like this had to the Taliban in Afghanistan. Journalist David Rode, who spent 7 months imprisoned by the Taliban, described the paranoia among his captors following a drone strike. They believed that a network of local informants guided the missiles. Innocent civilians were rounded up, accused of working as American spies, and then executed. Some Pakistanis in Fatah have even stopped drinking Lipton tea because they believe the CIA puts homing beacons for the drones in the tea bags. It's worth noting here that it's incredibly easy to DIY those too. Just ensure you get some bright IR LEDs that operate in the upper band of the IR spectrum, like those here that operate at 940 nanometers. And with a simple battery, you have this result. Nothing with the naked eye, but here is under night vision. And as the covert imagery photography and video book says, infrared light waves are normally transmitted at either 850 or 950 nanometer wavelengths. A floodlight transmitting on 850 will give off a slightly red glow signature, which is not 100% covered, as opposed to 950 nanometers, which is invisible to the naked eye and totally covert. That's because the 850 is closer to the visible spectrum, as you can see on your own here. And that was the history of those small IR beacons. Literally, a small TTL device like this could be the difference between life and death in some cases. From covert surveillance to targeting, IR beacons played, and in some cases still play, a crucial role in the spy world, giving us another recent, practical example of how nothing's as it seems.